Ja, meine sehr geehrten Damen und Herren.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have the pleasure to welcome you to the press statement after the Aviation Summit, and I'd like to welcome you. It was a different summit, but we had record participation at this digital conference under the auspices of the German Council Presidency. We had about 250 or 260 participants from all European member states. Ministers participated, authorities, parliaments, members of parliaments were also invited, industry representatives who certainly had the opportunity to present their statements as well. Ladies and gentlemen, a lot is at stake, truly a lot, regarding mobility within the European Union and regarding, in particular, the aviation industry. When we created the European community, an essential part of it was the freedom of movement and goods. And to ensure this freedom, you need enterprises that organize this mobility. I can tell you that the Aviation Summit was characterized by decisiveness, but also by concerns about the future. It was also characterized by visions for the months to come. The core elements were mentioned probably by every speaker. Confidence. Confidence not only by politicians in industry, but also restoring confidence of passengers, of our citizens, the ones who want to travel by plane again. Restoring confidence. Well, we must provide safe health standards for that. For this reason, I am happy that we have agreed at European level to a German proposal regarding sanitary measures and health protection. This means that we agreed that, of course, a mouth-nose protection is an essential element of this protection, of these measures, that all modes of transport are cleaned more often. It includes new cabin design and measures for handling, measures for ventilation and air conditioning. We have scientific support, and scientists say that aircraft cabins are safe, that health is protected, and this is why we have agreed on this, that this is one example to restore confidence. The other element is supporting the structure, not just airlines, with national measures, financial support. These are one element. We mentioned the entire system, aircraft manufacturers, air navigation services, airports, large airports and regional airports, airlines. All of these system stakeholders are one ecosystem. If one part of this ecosystem breaks away, things become difficult. This is why airports also urged us to consider national financial support to maintain this ecosystem, not just when it comes to international hubs, but also for regional airports. The third area is efficiency. Efficiency, for instance, in this one single European sky. We have so many inefficiencies in this system. For this reason, the Commission must present a proposal supported by all member states. We must become more efficient, more digital, but maintain national responsibilities. We need better transitions at the borders and at the individual interfaces of the air navigation service providers. Efficiency also with regard to slots and slot allocations, the slot regulation. We need more flexibility, quicker responses for all airlines so that the day after tomorrow are available. The fourth area is the area of innovation, of course, closely related to combating climate change and achieving our climate goals. Innovation is particularly about developing new aircraft. The manufacturers promised to continue developing clean aircraft, more efficient aircraft, to develop synthetic fuels, and they also asked us to support them in their efforts at European and also at national level. Germany is pressing ahead. We have a economic recovery program which the federal government will implement to achieve one thing. We have set a good example for other modes of transport, for shipping in the Baltic and Northern Seas. If Europe must be innovative to shape the future, then we will be innovative. Then we will create a situation where our products are successful and we secure jobs and create new jobs tomorrow for future generations and give them hope. We need the renewal of fleets. We need market ramp-up of sustainable alternative fuels. There is an enormous potential, and we must prevent one thing, namely that Europeans focus too much on Europe and lose sight of what's happening at international level. Every additional burden of this patient of ours, air traffic, aviation, will lead to a situation where we are not as dynamic after the crisis as we used to be. So we need no additional burden, no additional fees, no additional provisions. In this situation, we need innovation and force in order to be able to survive at international level, not just focus on Europe, because competition is international, in particular for aviation. We must look towards Asia or the United States, and competition is harsh. We must not weaken ourselves, but rather secure the competitiveness of European aviation. Certainly, climate goals, sustainability, they are a driving force for new developments. And for this reason,
einen New Mobility Approach vorgelegt, einen Vorschlag, wie wir technologieoffen, verkehrsträgerübergreifend den Mobilitätssektor stärken als den Wirtschaftstreiber für Europa. Und meine Damen und Herren, wir haben den Menschen im Blick, die Bürgerinnen und Bürger in Europa. Freiheit ist das wesentliche Gut einer europäischen Familie, schon seit Gründung. Freiheit heißt, reisen zu können, sich frei bewegen zu können, grenzüberschreitend unterwegs sein zu können. Nichts mit Verboten oder Beschränkungen zu belegen, sondern den Menschen Perspektive zu geben. Und das ist das Ansinnen aus diesem Aviation Summit, dass wir auch die soziale Verantwortung haben gegenüber Hunderttausenden von Arbeitsplätzen, die in der Luftverkehrswirtschaft da sind und wo es Unsicherheiten gibt bei den Menschen. Habe ich morgen noch in dieser Luftverkehrswirtschaft in Europa meinen Arbeitsplatz sicher? Und darauf muss die Politik.
Questions like, is my job safeguarded for the future? Therefore, in the next months, we will be heavily involved in addressing slot regulations, single European skies, social standards, being innovative, promoting new developments, being the driving force, and being flexible in an aviation industry that does not stop at European borders, but is well established at an international level. So everybody who participated at this Aviation Summit hopes for a swift recovery, swift rehabilitation of the industry, and that we use this phase for new developments and new innovations. If the situation remains the same, we can only act on site right now, but I believe that everybody is determined to play their role. Do you have any questions? Minister Scheuer, DPA, you mentioned confidence and uniform standards. And how far were there different standards at EU level? I believe it's all obligatory. I don't think that passengers are not flying because they have no confidence in health measures. It's because they do not know whether they will be able to return home if they travel to another country, because they don't know what the situation will be like. Do we want to introduce obligatory tests for those who come back? Airport operators say we don't know whether that's going to work, and it's also connected to high costs. Well, yes, true. This is a special situation. Every branch, be it foreign policy, be it internal policy, health policy, or transport policy, we coordinate with each other, and I am in close touch with the health ministry, and I discussed with my colleague Mr. Spahn how we can implement this from an organizational point of view. I am happy that we're having this discussion about tests at airports for those coming back from their vacation. But for international air movements, we need the equipment, of course. There is a lot to be discussed still with airports to figure out how we can do this from an organizational point of view. And it's also about handling and keeping the distance during handling procedure. Of course, this will cost more time, but everybody understands that we are just emerging from a situation where passenger numbers went down by 98%. So we are just restarting the system, and in this restarting phase, we don't have these huge waves of passengers. And with these passenger numbers, we can introduce health tests and into a system that is fairly new for all of us. But we must restore confidence in other ways as well. Infection control, for instance, rules that apply all over Europe, and on the one hand, and on the other hand, infrastructure, increasing capacities, introducing tests at airports, for instance, to clearly show that flying is safe on your way to the aircraft, because after being tested, you will know whether people are positive or not. And based on scientific research, we will also clearly show that the aircraft itself is safe. All branches are coordinating their approaches, and I am closely cooperating with my health ministry colleague. But it's a challenge for all of us, and it will cost a lot of money, and we will have to figure out who will pay for what at the airports, what fees will we charge, and so on and so forth. But we as transport politicians are always willing to help, because we want to allow mobility even in difficult times and in extreme times. Any other questions? From Welt, one question on the discussion on leaving the middle seat unattended. This could be one measure to create more confidence. The decision was against it. What are the reasons for not implementing this, leaving the middle seat free? Because people would have wanted this. You know this. We know it from ourselves that capacities in restaurants, for instance, have been reduced. Why hasn't this been the case for aircraft? This is not a political question. It's a scientific question. We discussed this with the Robert Koch Institute and had discussions about this, and the recommendations of the Robert Koch Institute were coordinated with aircraft manufacturers. We looked at the air filters and the ventilation system, the air in an aircraft is completely changed every 2 to 3 minutes. So there is scientific evidence that leaving the middle seat empty is not necessary. The entire system needs to be taken into account. People need to be aware of the risks, and they have to look out for each other. If you take out your hand luggage from the overhead compartment, you have to make sure that you keep the distance to the other passengers. Of course, we need to inform the passengers. There are some informational sheets. There are digital information systems. And to get back to your question, leaving the middle seat free, it's a discussion that we had, and based on scientific evidence, we decided against it because it's not necessary, given the ventilation system and the entire situation in a cabin. Mouth-nose coverage is necessary and also obligatory. Any more questions? This does not seem to be the case. Then thank you and wish you all the best. The Aviation Summit did not happen in person, but it was very successful because we addressed many important questions, and now we can start to work on answering the open questions. Thank you.